You may be wondering about that music. Wagner. It's because Arthur is trudging up the snow to 5,600 feet to our studio. We have 2 feet of snow outside.
You know, this is bad
That's
for a guy.
a gold song.
This is bad for a guy that's been in Florida for the last 6 months.
Oh my gosh, you should see it outside. There's like 2 feet of snow and it's only November.
That's right. Actually, I want to tell you, Gene Faulkner, as we know, spiritually is the highest music on the planet. Did you know that?
Yeah. I love this piece actually. When you get deep into it, it's like, except for they played it in that movie with what's his name, Brad Pitt, in the Nazi movie, that he did.
Yeah, and that was also played in Apocalypse Now, and it's a classic scene.
Yeah,
but
they always use it for the intense movies.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, this music it has actually been used in a lot of commercials. Warner Brothers used to use this music all the time. It really carries this kind of spiritual vibration to it. It's good
Warner
stuff.
Brothers has no clout with me anymore, so I'm not impressed.
Oh, well, this is
I actually worked for Warner Brothers back when I was 21 years old, shot rubber bands out the window at the Burbank studio. But, hey,
okay.
all of those movie stars and their little, sexual perverted ideas, I've had enough of it.
Warner Brothers shooting rubber bands out the window. I guess that was one of your more sterling moments of your career. I can see that. Did you put that on your resume, or was that the reason? Was that the reason you actually went to astrology?
I was already doing astrology back then, but
okay.
No, I mean that was my first real job.
Shooting rubber bands was your first real job.
No. No, I was actually doing other work, but I was being sarcastic because it is amazing how many people were on drugs at Warner Brothers. Jeez, cocaine was like the thing back then. Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
Okay. Hey, anyway, Gene and I are fired up today. We have absolutely got to tell you what's going on. We're going to get right into it. The stuff that is happening right now in the political scene is phenomenal. This is the most incredible outpicturing of events I can seem to recall since the American Revolution. Seriously. I mean, what we're seeing here is exposure of graft, corruption, like what's been happening in Hollywood, all this stuff. Oh, Gene, so who are we going to do today? What are we doing?
Well, we got everybody's chart. We got all the players' chart. We're going to start with Jeff Sessions because everybody's scratching their head right now going, what the heck is he doing? Where's he at? And even Trump tweeted a couple of days ago, where is my
he's
Jeff
talking
Sessions?
about the FBI.
Well,
Where's the FBI? Where's the Department of Justice? Yeah, those tweets that he's been sending out. Those.
On Clinton and everybody.
Oh, my God. It's a mess.
So,
it's been a mess.
I'm looking at his chart right now, and I'm thinking, Jeffy. Well, he's got a Pisces ascendant. And so everybody trusts him when they first look at him. They're like, oh, we can trust you till the day we die. You are just amazing. And so they confide in him. He does attract that. But his Neptune is in the 7th house where he wears rose-colored glasses at certain people, and especially those people that have titles like Secretary of State, So, and right now he's got his Jupiter moving through the 8th house, which tells me that it's very, very possible he's on the receiving end of political people, trying to control him and keep him from doing what he wants to do. And because he's a Pisces ascendant, he's afraid, he possibly may be afraid of them, or he could have been threatened. Now, his progressed moon is in Leo in the 6th house, and he's taking a lot of criticism because the 6th house rules criticism. But in Leo, he just keeps showing his heart, except for that he's territorial. He's drawing the line in the sand in certain places that he can get away with doing it. like immigration. He's doing such a great job there, and, all the different things he's done. But there's a place where we don't know, where he has fear, and somebody has come in probably and threatened him, and he can't tell anyone. And so that's what's going on here. And Trump is scratching his head going, what the heck, Sessions? We got stuff on Hillary Clinton. Let's bring it to the plate.
Wow. Boy, that explains a lot. That absolutely
well, you know what?
What?
I'm not done. Hillary's sun and all of her Scorpio planets, and including her ascendant, fall in his 8th house.
Oh, my God.
That is the 8th house is the blood, guts, and gore of it all. It's the, oh, my God, And so she's probably controlling him. I totally believe that, according to this astrology and the astrology of putting Hillary on his chart. You can do this with anybody. Anybody in your life, you can take their chart and put it on your chart and see what the relationship is. Now, obviously, everyone has free will choice to take the high road or the low road of any energy in their astrology, but it's pretty easy to predict the human condition because people tend to go with the gravitational pull if they're not really spiritually advanced, if they're not doing a lot of prayer work, if they're not, real, I don't know. It takes that kind of energy to counteract astrology coming down the pipeline into your world. You have to send out good energy to keep it from causing you trouble. So I doubt Jeff Sessions knows to do that, and instead he's being controlled. He's being controlled by some pretty evil dudes. Part of it's money, part of it's probably fame and notoriety, part of it is just rose-colored glasses. He's just not looking at it right.
Oh, great.
I know, it's a problem. And so I'm looking at his transits, and November 11th through November 20th is Jupiter squaring Saturn. So he's feeling like overwhelmed with everybody's, wanting something from him. And his Jupiter squares Pluto December 5th through December 15th. So people are stepping in to the picture and saying, just a minute, you can't say that. If you say that, we're gonna put the hammer on you.
Well,
so
this guy's in charge of the Department of Justice. He needs to step up.
Well, he's kind of wimpy.
Well, doesn't this look like this would be his big test then, to see whether or not he's going to stand for the letter and the spirit of the law?
Yeah, it's a test, definitely. Well, welcome to Schoolroom Earth. Everything is a test. You can look at your astrology and see when the test is coming down the pipeline and what are you going to do about it. He's got Neptune in his first house, so he's kind of fuzzy. His head is... Now, his transiting Neptune is going through his first house for the next 14 years. So it also makes me think, is he getting a little bit of a dementia or some forgetful stuff?
Oh, no.
Or he also is not clear on his own identity. He's like, who am I anyway? I thought I was a great lawyer. And he shows that. His Mercury's in Sagittarius, in the Sagittarius house. And Sagittarius rules his career. He is a great lawyer. He's a crusader for a cause. When he believes something, he wants to convert the world, and he will do it. The problem is that Neptune is kind of making everything fuzzy and making him a little afraid. So I'm thinking,
Wow.
Read his aura, people. Neptune is showing up big time. Maybe we need to just let him retire gently because he's done such a great job. He's a good man. He truly wants to play by the rules. But he's also kind of shifting to this Neptune he didn't know what he was getting into when he accepted this job. He didn't realize the deep state would come out and, try to wrestle him down.
What's interesting, I want to make a comment here about the forces of darkness. We've always talked about the forces of darkness and how they infiltrate or stand behind some individuals, or, how individuals align themselves with the forces of darkness. And the one thing that we've talked about is not only are we looking at his astrology, but the bad guys, the forces of darkness, also know that astrology. And they know that he could be susceptible to these kind of things at this point in his life. So I'm not surprised that, he could be potentially being used as a tool, and then somebody says, okay, looks like Sessions is going to, be getting up there. We can probably use him for our own needs. Now, that may not be obvious outside, but we know for a fact that the forces of darkness can play those kind of games because they know the astrology as well.
Well, yeah, he's dealing with territorial people, too, people that are drawing the line in the sand and going, hey, because his progressed moon is in the 6th house on the passive side in Leo. That means, powerful, colorful people are in his life, and they're nitpicking on him and telling him what to do. So he can't really be the fullness because he doesn't really know how much power he has, is kind of making him uncomfortable. But I tell you, the line in the sand got drawn by me when I read an article that he has recused himself from the Uranian situation and story. That bothers me.
That bothers me too.
Everybody should be reading BrettBart'sNews.com. Go to BrettBartNews.com. Steve Bannon's newspaper. Oh my God, he's the only one I've found that's clean enough and tells the truth, doesn't dilute it. When I go to Drudge, to get news, Drudge Report, it grosses me out because so many of the title lines are, God, he's always got to throw some stupid dark aliens ate children down at the bottom, and that thought form goes into my mind and I can't get it out. So I don't like that about Drudge Report. But Brett Bart, he shows beautiful, colorful photographs, and his titles hit the money, they hit the mark. And so I'd gladly pay for his paper if he charged me, but he gives it free to your email. So listen to his radio show, follow this guy. You want to do Steve Bannon's chart? You want me to tell you who this guy is? Or do you want more information on Jeff Sessions? I think I kind of cut to the chase there and told you, hey, we either need to pray for Jeff Sessions or he needs to pray for himself that he can learn to stand up to these forces of deep state that are keeping him from doing his job. And he needs to do his job because he's a crusader for a cause and he's got patriot and moral values. So if some snake is coming in and making him scared, what is that the test of? That's the test of, we all get tested on that, standing on the rock of truth. All of us have to do that someday, and it'll be in the worst conditions possibly made for you to do it. You'll want to lean with the, oh God, it's safer if I just go with the trouble of the bad guys. Don't do that, because it's a test, and you got to pass this test to graduate from the planet.
Yeah, the compromise.
So Jeff Sessions, don't. Yeah, you can't compromise.
The compromise in the morals has been the problem all the way along. People have not been standing up to this. I mean, we saw this with, Corey Feldman, in Hollywood. So, I mean,
Hey, he just announced somebody. Who was it that he announced? Did you know about that?
But you know how long it took him to get to that point where he was willing to stand up?
But who did he announce? Who did he say? Who is it?
Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. There were two people. They were him and somebody's assistant. I'll look it up on the extensive Trek Upward radio show research library. But he finally named two names, and he was encouraged to do that by Dr. Oz, of all people, on TV, who finally said Corey had said that he had spoken to the LAPD, had given them names. LAPD denied that. Dr. Oz came back and basically said, Corey, the LAPD is saying that you did not do that. I encourage you to call them again, and basically hands him a telephone. So what he finally did was to make the calls and name these two names. And I'll give you the names here in a second after I look them up. But
guess who else's chart I have while you're looking that up?
Whose?
Robert Mueller's.
Oh, all right. Well, let's hear that. Anyway, the last thing about Corey Feldman was it took him 6 months, 7 months, 8 months to get the courage up to be able to name the names. And this is what Gene's talking about. Sessions is going to have to put his feet down, and he has an opportunity now to be able to really do what he needs to do. And yeah, he's scared. So it's up to us to help and assist him or whatever he's going through and make calls and prayers for him to protect him from fear, doubt, and this intimidation. And this intimidation has been going on surrounding the Clintons for years and years and years, all the way back to the 90s. We know that this has been going on. So that's what we need to do for him. All right, I'll look this up. So what's Mueller's stuff say?
Well, I think he's going to get fired, quite frankly.
Well, who can fire him?
Yeah.
Who's got?
And I can make that prediction in his astrology. He's going to get fired from his job. He's either going to get fired or thrown out somehow. I don't know. President can fire the FBI director, can he?
No, he's really not supposed to be involved in that. See, that's kind of...
Or the Congress or whoever, he's going to lose his job. It's coming down the pipeline pretty quick. And I would say by the end of November, he'll be out of there. So it's happening now. There's so many things going on that we don't know. And the first of the year, he's got Saturn square everything. So I see how
square
good
everything.
this astrology is. Yeah, he squares his moon, squares his Neptune. And Saturn's been in his 12th house. So he feels guilty about stuff. When you have Saturn going through your 12th house of your psychology and the subconscious, he's aligned himself with the dark forces, but he can't sleep at night. So if he doesn't get fired, he's going to quit because he can't handle it. He's changing. He's not an honest man. His moon is in the 3rd house in the Gemini, which means at a young age he was probably beat up a little bit by his family and taught to lie to keep from getting yelled at. So he doesn't like to be yelled at. So whoever's yelling at him, he caters to them, and then everything he owns is in the 8th house. Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Sun, and Pluto, 8th house. So
wow.
There's the corruption, everybody.
Wow. Yeah.
His Mercury's in Virgo. He's also got probably some hang-ups. That Virgo, that usually rules weird hang-ups.
Okay.
I'm not going to go deeper into that, but everybody knows what Scorpio rules. So,
So he could be tied to that whole thing behind the scenes, right? That's been going on.
Pizzagate.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I don't know for a fact, but again, this is a rectified chart. And so his psychology is going through a lot of changes right now, and it may make him come to a point where he has to start over again,
Well, tell everybody what a rectified chart means. It means that you don't have the exact time of birth, right?
Yeah, we had to figure out what his time was. And so based on looking at him, I believe he has a Sagittarius ascendant because he's tall. He's, when he was younger, he's looked like a fireball. He was ready to conquer the world. The problem is that for the most part of his political life, he's had Pluto in the 1st house because he has the intercepted 1st house. So the charisma took him to his 8th house, which is what he was born with, Pluto in the 8th house, manipulated by the bad guys, the mafia, the whoever it is, the Hillary machine, the Bush.
Wow.
The Bushes and the Hillarys are tied to each other. You know that, don't you?
Oh, I absolutely know that. Yes, they're all the same. They're cut from the same piece of cloth.
Yeah,
they're two sides of the same bad penny.
Right. Just because they're Democrats or Republicans doesn't mean. What is that word, rhino?
Yeah, rhino Republican.
I'm starting to believe that Paul Ryan is a rhino, McConnell is a rhino. I think there's a lot of establishment in the Republicans that they need to get fired, and we need to get some real conservative, moral, upright people who stand on the line of truth. Get those rhinos out of there.
Well, there's been a
rhino
lot.
means, what does rhino mean? It means Republican that's really a Democrat.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing that constantly bothers me about this. When we talk about the two-party system, and you see this if you look at somebody, let's say, for example, Sean Hannity, or you see Rush Limbaugh, or one of the other guys, Hugh Hewitt, or some of these political commentators. They always talk about this, the Dems this, the Dems that, the Republicans this, the Republicans that. Here's the problem. The problem is it's not a Republican-Democratic issue. It's a moral versus a non-moral issue. And so if you're basically saying it's Republicans and Democrats, it's alignment with the laws of God. So if somebody is out of alignment with the law of God, they're going to cause problems. It doesn't matter if they're a Republican. It doesn't matter if they're a Democrat. It matters who and where they serve. And one of the best scriptural statements for figuring this out is what they've told us all along. You will know them by their works. So if you dive down into it and you find out what these guys are really doing and who they really stand for and what it is that they are doing, you will find out where they stand regardless of whether or not they're Republican or Democrat. So what we're seeing is...
Well, I want to say something about Mueller. He's manipulated by other people, even though he's got a Sag ascendant, which makes you think, he's got the strength. He's a brown noser. He's a huge brown noser. And so... that's his free will choice to go with the dark side, and be involved in the deep state. I do believe that he's, been bought and he's not standing on his own rock of truth, and that's probably why he feels guilty right now. Saturn in the 12th house.
So this stuff's finally
I also have
catching up
George
to him?
Soros chart, so if we want to talk about him, oh my God, we got riots going on today. Thank you, George Soros.
Yeah, the Antifa, and I'll tell you, it looks Nazi in its creation, and he's trying to tear down the fabric of democracy around the whole entire country because he has all this money that's been dumped into these causes, and these poor people thinking that they're doing right are actually helping to tear down the fabric of that which they need to be able to do what it is that they're doing.
I talk about riots everywhere, but he has Uranus in his 5th house, which is the house that rules children or youth or young people. And Uranus, he was born with Uranus in Aries. Well, Uranus is in Aries now, and he has what's called a Uranus return, which is explosive, aggressive, betrayal, and territorial. The 5th house also rules investments. So he's investing in these people to come together in groups and riot. And his progressed moon just went into Gemini in the 7th house. So he's got enemies and he wants to shut them up. And Gemini is also activating his 8th house. And I wonder about his health. And, when your progressed moon goes in the 8th house, that usually is a pretty heavy time for health matters. So I think he's headed into some of that too. But the problem is he's already corrupted his children. His 2 boys are backing him and doing the same thing. So he's invested 80% of his fortune into open society, which we talked about in our last show. And that shows up in his chart. My gosh.
This is really bad because his roots go all the way back to Nazism. I mean, his family and everything were heavily involved in the Nazi movement. He was a Nazi youth. I mean, he grew up in that kind of environment. So here we have it again. He knows how to change these. So here you have a guy that's basically taken all his money, investing it in these groups, which appear to be on the outside these causes that would be helpful, which look like they're going to, make the world a better place and everything else. But when it boils down to it, it's no different than what happened in Nazi Germany during World War II. So it's an inculcation of the youth, and then the youth turns around, and it's basically on socialist principles. And he is an avowed anti-democratic person by his own admission. So if you go out to the websites and just do a little bit of research on this, you'll find out that he has made a lot of comments from the standpoint that he does not want any kind of a democratic process going on. So he's throwing all his money at this to turn it around. Now, this is interesting. We have a juxtaposition of George Soros, who's throwing all his money behind this to create this Antifa and to create these situations where everybody and democracy is being taken down, anybody that's standing on a moralistic boundary. He's trying to teach the youth to revolt, teach the youth that anything goes, and he threw all his money at that, yet we have a president who also took his money and tried to do the exact opposite. So here you have 2 forces that are arrayed against each other, and which is usually typically the case when the light raises up, the darkness will try to counteract it or in some way or another to do this. So it is up to us with our spiritual work and our spiritual prayers to divide the real from the unreal by making our calls to the hosts of heaven and to bring down the intervention of God into these affairs, because these things are so much bigger than any of us individually. And the only way we're going to do this is through our science of the spoken word to Almighty God to bring down the truth and divide the real from the unreal and let him sort out the problems, of these souls of these individuals. So, wow, that's heavy stuff.
Well, he's a heavy dude. He's fanatic. He is a fanatic according to this chart. So, whatever he has decided to make his focal point, he's a fanatic about it. And I think he has been brutalized when he was very, very young, according to this chart. I think he's got some huge scar tissue that has psychologically molded him, to stay on the dark side. It's almost like he was taught by the abuse that he got to be a dark one. I mean, that's kind of amazing to me, that you can be, they say the first 7 years of your life, you're molded, your mom and dad are God the Father, God the Mother, and everything they do, you sort of internalize at some psychological level. and you outpicture as you get older, even though you think you're nothing like your mom and dad. How dare anybody think I'm like my mom and dad? Let me look like I'm rebelling totally against them.
Wow.
But when you really look, it's the same thing that's happening. It's just on a different level. You're projecting it into a. But oh my gosh! So I'm wondering about right now. He's got progress moon square his Neptune December, January, and February. So he may get a little bit of disappointment, in the realm of thinking he's going to win on these riots and that he's having today. He's paid a lot of people to come together to riot how do you say that group?
Oh, I've heard it pronounced a bunch of Antifa. I've heard it pronounced. Yeah, I've heard it pronounced two ways. Antifa,
he owns that,
Antifa.
lock, stock, and barrel.
Oh.
He sponsored it. He paid for it. He built it. He's created it, and he wants it to do damage. So wake up, people, and realize, especially the youth. I hope there are a few youth that are listening to the show. Do your homework. Don't just because someone waves money in your life, realize that when you make decisions like this, to not stand on the moral rock of truth, but to go out and violently act, you're making karma. And karma is what you're here to balance, not make.
Oh, and one other comment to the youth. Just because somebody might have a doctorate or some kind of an advanced degree in some kind of intellectual pursuit does not make them right or an expert. So,
or money, if they've got money.
Right, exactly.
And George has money, you bet.
Yeah.
And he's willing to give it to you if you will, go break windows in buildings and act like you're full of hate. And he incites hate. It's amazing that he goes after the youth, because if you think about the psychology of the youth, they have all the energy, and they're not quite, their brain hasn't completely developed. I don't think the brain in a male develops until after about 24, and in a female, I think it's in the early 20s too.
Or in my case, my 50s, So. Did I tell you the story about the group that when I was a young pup kind of reporter writing some things for little local newspapers, and I went to Washington, D.C., and there was a march that was occurring on May Day, and it was a communist march. And so I started interviewing some of the people. I had press credentials on. So I started interviewing a couple of the people, and I said, do you really realize what it is that you're marching for or what you're fighting for here? No. I said, really? I said,
yeah, exactly.
I said, did you look at the banners that you're carrying? No. I said, well, then why are you doing what you're doing? Because they gave us a free lunch. I kid you not. So It was all these people that needed feeding, so they just followed it, carried some banners, and it made it look like they were standing for this cause. And that was my first introduction to, let's say, activism propaganda. So
half of them don't even
know what
half of them don't even watch TV. They don't even have a clue what's going on. They just whatever.
Oh.
You can attack I don't know. It just makes me roll my eyes, I tell you. Anyway, so George Soros, poor guy, he's had a brutal life, but he attracted it because you're born into exactly what you need to experience so that your soul can practice making different choices. Well, obviously, if you've got a momentum on making bad choices, you're going to keep coming back and doing it over and over again. History repeats itself, and then there's the second death, where your whole life stream, once you die, that final life, you go to the court of the sacred fire, and all your energy is turned into poof, disappears. You're gone.
All your records, all your consciousness, everything.
All your
else.
records,
and that's what the fallen
you're
angels.
Erased.
And that's what the fallen angels fear, and so they project that fear on the people that carry the light. And as a result of that,
they want to take everybody with them. It's
exactly.
like, hey, let's see, if we're going to go, you can go too.
Right.
They're warmongers. Oh my gosh, like I said in that last show, we're really facing some heavy war issues in America's chart, and I just pray that everybody does what George Washington did, and instead of bending the knee and defying the American flag, bend the knee and pray to God that our nation is protected from this internal and external attack, because people, we are at war right now. Wake up. And if you want to know more information about that and how you fit into the scheme of things, why don't you look at your chart in America's chart? Are you actually going to see it in your front yard? Do you have survival food? Do you have all the things you need to have to take care of yourself if this becomes very blatant, which I believe it will if we don't do the prayer work? Do I sound extreme?
No.
I hope so, because I hope so, because I really want to drive this point home that we're free will choice making some bad free will choices and allowing by our passive behavior these corrupt evil forces into our United States of America, like in New York the other day, that little guy who won the lottery and went and decided to run over 8 people. He's got 30 friends that he prayed with, so we got to watch those 30 friends. I hope that somebody's on that. But you know what? George Soros sponsors this. He sponsors terrorism. So does Qatar. There are so many places and people with billions and millions of dollars. Singer. Nobody's talking about Singer except for a few people. That we need to do his chart too. He's like another George Soros, only worse.
Yeah, exactly.
You know who I'm talking about? Paul Singer, I think is his name.
Yep. And I'm looking at these. I'm looking at these groups. Oh my God, that George Soros funded. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on.
I know,
and all of them are designed to take America out of the equation. Like, for example, here, American Friends Service Committee. The group views the United States as the principal cause of human suffering around the world. And so
I know.
This group says, okay,
What?
it favors America's unilateral disarmament and the dissolution of American borders, amnesty for illegal aliens, and abolition of the death penalty and the repeal of the Patriot Act. Okay, the Patriot Act, okay, I can understand, but you have to see the bigger picture of what this guy's attempting to do. He's tearing down America. He doesn't like America. He doesn't like American values. He doesn't like moralistic values. And all of these organizations are getting money. So he's basically, if they have any kind of out of alignment condition to any kind of democratic principles or anything that's related to God, he's pumping money at it. And
he's pumping money into the universities too, so the kids are going in, as we've said before, they go in conservative and come out radical. So, the teachers are communist or socialist, or, it's such a, there's a book that was written some time back about how it only takes 15 years to indoctrinate a generation.
Yes.
And get them, I don't know, it's directly, you want to read the book, The Art of War, but then you want to read these books on how to get what their propaganda is to take over a nation. China, again, wants to be the all-power. And they're doing everything they can because we've given them military and we've given them might to do it. They're doing everything they can, and Russia wants that too. So we got 2 countries who want to be more powerful than the United States of America. They both are communist and socialist. So, all of the things that are going on. I mean, I've noticed when I go out and socialize with people, I'm talking to people now, some of them will say, oh yeah, Putin, he's a good guy. He wears Archangel Michael around his shoulder. He's, around his neck in a necklace. He's really a good guy. And then I hear other people, saying how evil he is. So, the indoctrination is already coming in. People don't know who to trust and who not to trust. And if they hear a group of people talking about something like Putin's a good guy and, he's got no harm, no foul projected at America, or Chinese now. This kind of worries me. The headline, Broadcom, the Chinese guy that came from Singapore, and he said he's bringing his company back to the United States of America because the United States of America did so many things for him. This is the headline. Trump had him on last night, and I thought, what a sweetheart. But he's Chinese, and it kind of makes me think, okay, here we go. Another company coming from another foreign land that employs tens of thousands of people in our nation, and they're Chinese, and they're coming in like they're our friends. Maybe he is a friend, but really? How do we know? How do we know what he really thinks? You can see people on their outside, but you can't see them on their inside. So, he brought tears to my eyes when he was giving his speech and saying how he went to MIT and America took him in when he didn't have any money and his parents couldn't afford his college education, so MIT gave him a scholarship, and he's built this multi-billion-dollar company that employs thousands and thousands of people. And he said that when Obama came into office, he moved back to Singapore, took his company with him, and now he's back because Trump's in office and Trump supports jobs. But really, what's the story behind that? Why did he go back to Singapore, if he was a true American?
Well,
even though Obama, we all obviously know Obama is not a true American, but still, you stand on the line. You don't leave just because the going gets rough. You stand for the truth. You stand for your patriotic feelings. So I'm concerned about that. Who are these companies that are coming back? Is Trump being innocent? I love Trump. I love his chart. I think he's got a lot of strength, but God, he's so surrounded by the deep state. He's probably getting to the point where what do I believe? What do I not believe? Who do I trust and who do I not trust? So I'm grateful that we have Breitbart News to go to. Steve Bannon, thank you very much. And we need more of that to expose these things. There are people that don't care whether they're on the dark side or not. They just want the money. They don't live for things that are valuable and precious and pure and innocent and truth and morals. They live for greed. They live for intrigue. They live for sex. They live for all the dark things. So,
well said.
You're such a smart aleck. And what side of the coin are you on, Arthur?
I couldn't argue with any of that, Gene. There's so much more. I think we should do another show just on China and everything that's associated with what you're talking about, because
there's so much stuff going on.
I'm telling you, what happened with China was built by corporate dollars and greed. And I have stories to tell you about that from personal witness about people that were investing in Chinese, businesses or U.S.-based businesses getting Chinese breaks, and all of that was so that China could build their infrastructure so that they could turn around and use it against the world. We have a whole.
I remember, you know what? I was doing a radio show in the early 90s, and I remember seeing an article when Bill Clinton was in office in the corner of the newspaper that China had bought a port off of California so they could, I was saying that. I said, man, oh my God, Bill Clinton just gave China a port off California to bring in their little green men with their umbrellas. Oh my God. Nothing against Chinese people. I have some Chinese friends that love Kuan Yin.
Little green men with their...
Just kidding. That was just my,
No,
whatever.
More like container ships loaded with all sorts of weapons and all sorts of other things.
Yes, exactly.
Ports. Yeah.
Spies is what I was saying. Spies, lots of them infiltrating throughout, the little Chinese restaurants and stuff. But nothing against the Chinese, because again, I have some Chinese friends that love Kuan Yin, and I love to pray with them. And I'm not prejudiced. This is not about racism. This is about wake up, people. China wants to put America's power out, then they can't put our light out. So stand on your light. The light is inside your heart. What's truth? Stand on that. It makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
And maybe we should wrap up the show at that point.
Yes. We have more to go. We just can't jam it all into one small little time frame here. So let's. And
I heard one of our audience members yawn just then. What? Hey. We're just trying to save America. We are playing George Washington Come Again, and we're fighting the good fight. So, William, bye.
Bye, everybody. See ya.
Let Jean do an astrology consultation for you, your family, or your friends. Go to astrologyjeanhart.com or give her a call or text her at 1-406-599-3934. There are powerful spiritual tools available to help you deal with planetary and personal challenges, and these can be found at prophecyisgiven.com. And be sure to visit our website at thetrekupwardradioshow.com or stop by on Facebook at www.facebook.com/trekupward, and be sure to hit like on our page, or visit YouTube and search for the Trek Upward Radio Show. Be sure to subscribe so you do not miss another episode of the Trek Upward Radio Show. The Trek Upward Radio Show is a studio at 5,600 feet production.